People are seriously sleeping on Inter Milan. I get that Manchester City is easily the best team in the world right now. They have looked dominant in the Prem and in the Champions League towards the end of the season, but the Champions League final is one game, and I think this Inter Milan team can really come out and surprise Manchester City, because City haven't played a team that plays quite like Inter Milan does. We're going to take a look at the tactics from the second leg of Inter Milan versus AC Milan in this year's Champions League semifinal, because I think this match is a great representation of how the final could play out. The reason we're taking a look at the second leg rather than the first leg where Inter were much more dominant, it's because I think in the second leg we really saw Inter Milan's true defensive capabilities. And Inter Milan are going to have a great defensive game if they want a chance at beating Manchester City. But before we get into it, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my partners, Mètrica Sports. Play by Mètrica Sports is the software that I use to make all of my analysis. And if you're interested in trying it for yourself, use my affiliate link in the description or use the code SpreadsheetSoccer for 10% off at checkout. If you're looking for the best video analysis software, this is the one. Now let's get into it. So Inter Milan this season have been using a 5-3-2 in defense. When out of possession, they leave two strikers up top, have a 3-man midfield, and a 5-man defense. And the main reason I said this defense was so surprising and City haven't faced anything like Inter Milan this season is because of how Inter Milan press. The main feature and the main reason why this Inter Milan defense is so incredible is their hybrid pressing system. Basically, a hybrid pressing system is a combination between a man-to-man press and a zonal pressing system. The only other team I've seen in Europe this season use a similar midfield hybrid pressing system like Inter Milan is Union Berlin in the Bundesliga, who have regularly sat in 3rd or 4th place in the league and were even challenging for the title at some point. So, players have zones, and once opposition players come into their zones, they will man-mark them. You can see in this clip here, Inter Milan's right back Dumfries is actually pushed all the way up on AC Milan's left back Theo Hernandez. Now typically you wouldn't see a team's right back pushed all the way up pressing another team's left back, but in this Inter Milan system, Theo Hernandez enters Dumfries' zone, and when in defense he pushes up to man mark Theo Hernandez, and you can see the rest of the team shifting over to support Dumfries in this press. The way you can most obviously see this hybrid pressing system in action is when AC Milan were holding possession. You can see that Inter Milan have two of their forwards pressing onto the AC Milan center back and goalkeeper, while one of their midfielders, Çalhanoğlu, is also up top pressing with them. However, the two other midfielders are actually staying back near the defensive line, marking the other AC Milan midfielders. It's because of this hybrid pressing system that you see such gaps in between the midfielders and such differences because they have to press in their different zones. Probably the biggest way that AC Milan tried to take advantage of this Inter Milan defense is having players press up onto the defenders and forcing them to man mark them when they dropped into the midfield. We saw Diaz do this a bunch during the match. The only problem is Inter Milan will then have 3 or 4 guys surrounding the man in the midfield. They literally crowd the midfield with so many players that it's hard to break through with just a single player. You can see even when they play it to the sides, Inter Milan have 5 defenders ready to pounce on 3 AC Milan attackers. They always have the numerical superiority purely because of their formation and how many men they have shifting side to side, helping with this hybrid press. And this press is extremely compact. In the first game against AC Milan, they were playing much more of a higher pressing system. However, in this game, where I think they're going to be playing much more defensively against Man City, we'll see their mid-block sit around midfield, and it'll be very compact, as they'll try and clog up the midfield and force Man City to play towards the outside and not allow Kevin De Bruyne or Gundogan time in the middle. And you can see how Inter Milan keeps the spaces between the defenders so tight. It's really hard to play through the center of this team. AC Milan's biggest outlet for creativity was Leao, and due to that hybrid pressing system we touched on earlier, Dumfries was kind of man-marking Leao for most of the game on this right side, just due to how their hybrid pressing system worked. The thing was, Leao had to drop extremely deep, almost into the defense, if he ever wanted to receive a pass and try and create anything. That's why he was kept mostly silent by this Inter Milan team for most of the game. You can see even on the other flanks, when AC Milan were switching it out to their wide players, Inter Milan were quick to have one of their midfielders come over and support and create a 2v1 situation using the touchline. Inter Milan's midfielders are so pivotal to this formation because they're able to shift back and forth, support their defenders on the outside, and create those numerical superiorities in the midfield when they're shifting back and forth. And you can see just how well disciplined this man-to-man hybrid pressing system is. Mkhitaryan is already pushed up on the AC Milan left midfielder, while Bastoni is dropping in to guard AC Milan's center midfielder. Now you can see Mkhitaryan follows his man all the way into the defense, and he kind of switches position with Bastoni. It's because this team has incredible discipline and communication. They're able to switch zones seamlessly, and it's really hard to break this down when Inter Milan are at their best defensively. I know we talked a lot about Inter Milan defensively, probably because they will be playing defense for most of the game against Man City. However, their attack is nothing to sleep on. Inter Milan have kind of a unique setup that a lot of teams have a hard time adapting to, especially AC Milan in the second leg. Inter Milan's 5 at the back system turns into a 3-5-2 system. Inter Milan's left and right backs push up into the midfield to become left midfielders and right midfielders. They keep the 2 strikers up top, and they have the 3 center backs at the back. However, often you'll see Inter Milan's right center back, in this case Bastoni, pushing all the way up almost as a right midfielder. This pushes Dumfries all the way into the attack, and it creates kind of a 3-back if you count Inter Milan's goalie. This really messes with teams because of Inter Milan's ability to push one of their center backs high up the pitch into almost a right mid position. They're kind of able to stretch the defense in ways because if you see this clip, Leao doesn't really know who he's going to guard, and it leaves Bastoni open out wide as a free man. Often we'll see Inter Milan use this system. They'll be able to find a free man on the outside because of, how unfamiliar teams are with this kind of movement. Another key thing about Inter Milan is that their center midfielders are not only great at defending and maintaining this hybrid pressing system in the middle, they're also incredible at attacking. Barella has been a highlight this season, and his ability to make runs off the ball in behind is unreal. A lot of the times you'll see him making runs in behind while the other 2 strikers are, sitting centrally. And he'll also often play off of Dzeko or Lukaku up top, depending. Because of their great target man abilities, they can knock it down to an oncoming Barella who can run in behind. Another thing I wanted to touch on is just how Manchester City will be able to take advantage of this Inter Milan defense and attack. A common theme that we see with this hybrid pressing system is players getting dragged out of position. You can see Dumfries was often taken out of his position due to Leao's movement all the way, into defense to drop in and receive the ball. I think a good team like City might be able to take advantage of this just due to how many good ball players they have all across the field. Akanji's able to make runs in behind. We've seen Walker make runs in behind when he can. John Stones in midfield can even make runs forward when he's available. So Inter Milan are going to have to be really good with how they press just to make sure they don't leave any City players a chance to move up and get in behind. Also, like we touched on before, there's going to be spaces in midfield because of how this hybrid pressing system works. Man City players like Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and Kevin De Bruyne are going to be able to find these pockets of space, but they're going to have to be really quick at their decision making if they want to get out of it before getting clobbered by 3 or 4 Inter Milan defenders. Remember when we touched on that aspect, how Mkhitaryan and Bastoni, one of the center backs, would switch positions due to how the man marking system works? I think it's going to be really important for Haaland to drop in and help give assistance. Because of how he'll be able to move one of the center backs out of position, this leaves space for KDB, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva to run into and attack in behind because he's able to take one of the center backs out of position. And I think this is definitely something that we should look out for in the Champions League final. So that is just a couple of reasons I think Inter Milan has a real chance against Manchester City. Obviously, it's one game and anything could happen. But I think Inter Milan are being slept on. I think they have something that Manchester City haven't seen at all this season, and it could really surprise them, especially in a one-leg final. I think this is going to be a great game, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below.